off, and they have.
I meant to tell you this yesterday. Thank you for agreeing to come to El Dorado in early August.
Testing. Yeah.
No, I know that.
No pressure.
Oh, yeah, I'm telling you, there's a whole story there.
I can imagine. I know it's got to be.
Yeah.
Use brand new car to one of the teachers, one of the plant landers. They had a big crucifix. They drew one name out of the hat, all those teachers, and that teacher got to use. I think she picked us a brand new Jeep, and so they work hard.
I'm gonna lean on some car dealers.
But you know what? I was thinking yesterday, if we can design these centers for teacher absenteeism, because what they use, people have things they use. Something's got to
That's
be.
not, that can't be. No, it didn't have.
No, I'm just saying some type of incentive, because I used to, my friends were teachers, and then they used to have like, like elective surgeries during the school year. Like I said, just if you can have something that they could say, if I don't use my days, then I have a possibility,
I think, now I will say one thing I hear what he's saying. If you're in a, feel like a hopeless situation in school that is so hard. Yeah, I felt like he gave some excuses. There are a lot of people across the state that are in schools where it's hard. And they should.
That's what I'm betting on.
change the time, change the makeup of the staff, do something.
It's like it's hard.
The earliest next month.
There are a lot of people that don't want to show up.
Okay. Your face is right. We're calling the meeting of the State Board of Education to order for June the 10th, 2016. We're going to start with our reports today. And the first is the chair's report, and I don't have a report. So we'll move right on to the commissioner's report.
Okay, well, I'm going to start off with a bit of sad news, sad for us in the agency, but as many of you probably have heard, we are losing Kendra Clay, our general counsel, to Springdale, and we were very sad about that, but I wanted to take this opportunity to recognize the work that Kendra has done for us in the last almost a year since she has taken the position that y'all remember Jeremy and the work that he did, and Kendra just stepped in to those shoes and filled them wonderfully and led this unit during times of, as you can imagine, great difficulty with the number of all the litigation that we have had to deal with in the last year, coming out of this 2015 session with the number of rules and regulations changes and navigating not just that, but also a change in the process, the legislative process on rules and regs. Times and had a baby during all this time, and I want the board to show their appreciation for Kendra and the work that she's done, and just let her know how much we're going to miss her. I almost didn't want to, well, I didn't want to sign the HR form that had to be signed, but I went ahead and did it anyway. So Kendra, thank you. Madam Chair, members, my report today, I want to give you an update on the strategic initiative. Today we are launching a new web page on the ADE website. So Tiffany, if you could bring that up for us, please. As you know, we've been working for several months on what we call Vision for Excellence in Education. Started last summer and became the phrase that we use to describe our strategic process management that we're going through, working with The Building State Capacity, the Center for Building State Capacity, Dr. Sam Redding, organizations, and I won't go through the whole list, but that act as co-ops for state agencies is the best way to describe them. So those teams have been coming in working with us, and this website is the place, and that obviously it's in the initial phases, but we want the public, we want educators, we want all stakeholders to be able to come here. Tiffany, if you would back up so we can show them again how to get there. If you start at the homepage, arkansased.gov, and under About, you see the third item down is Vision for Excellence in Education, and that will take you to that. And that is where our vision, our mission, our values as an agency, and our goals are there for reference, for folks who are working with in the agency, for our partners, and for the general public. And you see there, we go through each, and as I've gone through these with you before and talked to you about this process, we worked for a number of months to get to this point so that we had broad input, internal and external stakeholders, on what we wanted our vision to be, what we felt like our mission was, the values that inform us and that keep us on track as we work with our partners. And those student goals, those 5 goals that we described to you, 4 being very student-focused for every student in the state of Arkansas, and then the 5th goal being one that's focused on building the capacity of our team at ADE to do what needs to be done so that Arkansas can meet the other 4 goals. And I just, I want to say how much I appreciate the hard work that the folks in this agency have done. Last Thursday and Friday, we went out to the ranch, to the east facility, out in West Little Rock, and took about 70 of our division, or of our unit leaders. So as I described the process for you in our work session a couple of months ago, the process was having the vision, having the mission, the goals, the values, but then as we get into the actual, what does it take to make these happen? What are the action steps? We wanted to turn that. We knew it would not work if it was just the commissioner, the deputy commissioner, and the assistant commissioners sitting up there and dictating what needed to happen. So it's been very much a ground-up process for those professionals using their experience and their expertise to start designing the actions for what it would take to meet the strategies and the goals that we've set forth. And last Thursday and Friday was really the first big work session where our team got together and was able to start putting some of that on paper. Those things are going to be linked here. Those, as we build those out, this will be the page where you'll be able to go and see what work is being done to accomplish those action steps. It will also be a place that, Tiffany, if you could go down to the related links, right there where there we go. Related links, you will see a log of all the strategic planning meetings and it's in a Google Doc, but you can look and you can see the audience, the presentations, the locations, so that you see we're trying to get all over the state to do this, and any other links or relevant information that goes along with it, all linked from this document. So this really, the purpose is for this to be a one-stop shop, if you will, of information. And then others can look on this to say, look, we'd like ADE to come to us and talk about this, or we'd like to give some info. So it gives them the ability then to see what's going on, contact us, and add to the fabric that is this strategic management process that we're going through. So that's one part. And the linkage here to ESSA, a lot of folks say, well, how does this link to ESSA? The beauty of this is that we were started doing this. We did this, initiated this process before we even knew ESSA was going to be passed and signed. And as that legislation came about, and looking at what it requires of us, our strategic plan has really set the stage for Arkansas to be successful. It really goes hand in hand with what is expected of us. And the beauty of it also is that we've already started getting the feedback and getting the stakeholder input on a number of issues that are part of ESSA. I could point to each division in the agency and show you something, and as an example, the equitable access for excellent educators. That piece fits in, and we're already getting a broad input on that issue. Also, it helps us as we address changes such as when HQT went away, and how does AQT, the Arkansas Qualified Teachers that Ivy's been working on, how does that fit in? Our standards work that we've been doing with Stacy Smith and her group, the work that, I could just go every assistant commissioner and the work that they're doing. This is where we're going to capture all that information. Last week, U.S. Department of Education issued the notice of proposed rulemaking, and so there is a 60-day window now that's underway for the rules to implement ESSA, and we are working to go through those and understand what they mean, and also provide an appropriate response from Arkansas during that comment period. Also, right now, as you can imagine, there are a lot of conferences that are focused on ESSA, and a number of our department leaders are out last week or out this week getting that feedback. It's, as a matter of fact, Ivy and some of her team, Kim and some of her team, they are out today because they are one of those conferences. That will continue, and that feedback will help inform the direction that we need to take to work out some of the details. So we're really excited about where we are as an agency and as a state in meeting what the expectations are under the Every Student Succeeds Act. So, Madam Chair, I wanted to give you an update on that, but as I pointed out yesterday, and as you saw or you heard from Malvern in their Act 1240 waiver presentation, sometimes you really don't know if folks are hearing you, and if it's sinking in, the direction that we're going. Obviously it is. So, when you see that come back, repeated back to you as a teacher, Ms. Newton, that's a good deal. We have been out teaching. We have been out working and educating, and we've been getting good feedback, and now to see it come back to us in these presentations, it shows that educators in Arkansas, administrators in Arkansas really see the big picture of moving us in that direction of meeting the demands, meeting the needs of our students today. And over the next 20 years, I've said, and I'm going to say it, 20 years from now, they're going to write books about the miracle in education in Arkansas. And you all will be able to look back upon that and say, wow, I had a hand in that. So thank you for the hand that you do have in it and that you'll continue to have, and we appreciate the opportunity to make this presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just wanted to add, I thank you for your vision and moving it forward in terms of developing avenues for and social avenues like the website for folks to be able to access information. Yesterday, the two ladies that were here, part of my staff, were relentless in attacking me all through my period of service on the board, asking me questions. What about this, and what about that, and why don't you do this, and why does the board, for the logic. But I think this new website goes a long way in providing information to communities and people that just want to know where to start to answer the simple questions and then build from that, and more complex questions. So that gives them, a foray into information, and staff. We as board members have general knowledge about stuff, just enough probably to be dangerous in most instances. But this gives another avenue to folks that can access social media, can access those electronic ways of gathering information, and that's the way of the world. So I'm proud to see that the department is going in that direction, and I know that you'll continue to do those things that will provide access to parents so that parents can ultimately help children and see where you are and what you're doing, and ask those hard questions and get those answers that they need. So thank you. Ms. Zook?
Am I remembering correctly that you are having some of the East kids work on this too? So, you know, the thing I like to see when you are using things in school districts and you want to be sure they're really working, and so by doing this, you're not only involving the students, but you're showing and demonstrating how East works and how it can, work in any setting. And so I do appreciate the fact that y'all are doing that as well.
Thank you. We are using East students to help develop a student feedback mechanism. And we're excited about the work that they're doing, and we kind of hit them at the end of the school year. So when August comes back, you know, I'm sure that they're not going to work a lot on this over the summer, but they did say that we're going to work on it. But a few weeks ago, we met with, first I'll back up. We called Matt Dozier after as I was driving home from the East Conference in Hot Springs. 2,700 students, East students from all over the state, from Louisiana, from Iowa, from Oklahoma, one other state. So keep in mind, East is an initiative that had its birth in Greenbrier, and it is now in other countries. Okay, so, and it was like a rock concert when I went in there, and I wished I'd taken my earplugs and my sunglasses, because the lights were going crazy, the smoke machine was going, the music was loud, and the kids were excited about learning, because that's why they were there, because East is about learning and that project-based methodology. But driving back, it hit me, if we're going to really get the student voice, we have to ask students, what a better way of getting that than turning those kids loose, because my first acknowledgement or interaction with East was in Mountain View, where the East students in Mountain View had designed a animal shelter for the city, and the city built it. And it was based on the design that those students had developed, and that was several years ago. And they've only grown since then and gotten better. So met with a group of East students from Harrison and Batesville that Matt Dozier had put together for us. And then now they are reaching out to other East groups around the state to develop this for us. And we're looking forward to the product. But that's just one example of the stakeholder engagement that we're trying to make a part of our strategic initiative.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you.
I have a question.
Ms.
And
Savers.
I'm going to go look at your website or your page, because it looks so interesting. And I'm like Diane. I mean, and Toyce, I so applaud you for taking this on. This is a lot of hard work. Do you anticipate aligning priorities with your organization? I mean, do you anticipate some realignment?
That is a natural piece of the process we're going through, and that's one of the difficult things. We cautioned the work group last week, as we said, as you go through this process and as you identify these actions and as you look at the groups that need to be involved in making these things happen, you are probably going to identify some structural issues in the agency. And we encourage them to not back off on that, to recognize that. But for now, put those in a parking lot, and knowing that some of the structural issues might have to be resolved through legislation or something like, a little more in-depth than what we can do immediately. But let us know about those, because the goal is not just transforming Arkansas, but doing it in a way that is efficient, and efficiency means sometimes we have to change the way we're structured in the agency. So, Ms. Savers, yes, that's something we are aware of and are looking as part of this process, but doing so in a way that doesn't, we don't want folks to be worried about jobs being eliminated or things like that. There's plenty to do for the team that we have. Sometimes it means you might be doing something a little different tomorrow than you did yesterday. And so we're making a list. We're looking and working with the governor's office as those issues arise.
Well, all the old CCSSO audits recommend that, as I'm sure you're quite aware. And I also hope that you'll let the forward plan inform you in your work, because it's a natural link.
Yeah.
And I think they absolutely did some good work when they looked at the ADE. And then lastly, just this is my personal plug, and since this is my last time to be able to do this, but and it's for School Improvement Group. I mean, they are doing amazing work, but they've got a lot on their plate. So just remember how important their work. I'm saying this to whomever is on this work group. They've got such hard, important work to do. So don't
Agreed.
take any of their people and give them more.
Yeah.
Well, just as we'll get into it, the linkage to Forward got quite a bit stronger within the last couple of months between ADE and the Forward group, with Susan moving in that new capacity that she has there. So we're actually looking forward to building on the work that's been done so far, and that certainly is going to be an integral part of our strategic initiative.
And it ties directly into that statement that you made a couple of times yesterday about Arkansas being on the cutting edge and being the leader nationally or internationally, and someone else made the remark too. And I think this is an opportunity to formulate a plan of intervention or action or whatever it is to look at having the supports that this initiative could possibly provide as it relates to school improvement, because I know that's a big piece of the Forward initiative, is looking at those academically distressed schools in a way outside of what probably the department can support. So that's exciting and interesting.
Certainly the notion of school transformation moves it beyond school improvement. I've said, and we talk around here at the agency about, we've been doing school improvement for decades. And in some of these cases, what you're seeing come before us now through schools of innovation, through conversion charters, through open enrollment charters, through charter waiver process, Act 1240, you're seeing that transformational piece that really takes a leap beyond just school improvement. Now, obviously, the work that the school improvement unit is doing is critical and is not going away. But we really think that as more schools get into the transformational of a student-focused system where we have all the pieces in place, and I tell every time I present on this, I say this is a 5, 10, 20-year process. This is going to happen by 2017 or 2018 or 2020. I can envision that as that transformation takes place, the role of school improvement changes. But right now, that role is there and it's critical, and we have to make sure we have the expertise and the capacity within the agency to partner with our schools. And that's another thing, Ms. Savers, and I just want to stress this, because we are trying to not just transform schools, but transform the way folks look at the agency of school improvement not being punishment. We have to do that. We have to get our school partners out there to help develop an understanding that school improvement needs to be a partnership. If it's not a partnership, then it doesn't work. And we have...
Like you've done a good job of that over the past, I've seen some real changes.
It has gotten better. It has gotten better. And there's still a general notion, though, that if you end up on a list, that you're being punished. And we continue to communicate that this isn't about punishment. It's about helping you get better. We're not looking for schools to take over. We're not looking for schools to go intervene. We would have enough to do without any type of that scenario. But, fulfilling the mandate of Lakeview is part of what we have to do. And, you all, I think, have really helped with the work of the distress committee, subcommittee, and the work that y'all have done on getting the reports and understanding the reports. It's helped us. It's really set a stage for us to be able to go out and communicate better with a lot of our school partners that, no, you're not being punished, you're being helped. Let us show you how we can help so that once, you build the capacity, you move on, we move on, and your kids are being served better. That's what the end goal has to be. So thank you, and I'll be sure Ms. Barnes knows that you're bragging on her folks.
Always. Thank you.
Any other comments about the Commissioner's report relative to his report? Okay, thank you. Well, moving on to the Arkansas Teacher of the Year report, Ms. Newton.
Before I start, I just want to say that I'm excited about the vision, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it, to think about transforming schools, but it goes further than that. We're talking about transforming kids' lives, and that's why we're here, and that's why we're doing what we do. So I'm very excited about the future. This is my last one, so I'm excited about that too. But this process of writing these blogs every month, Ms. Kaufman helped me figure out this plan for the year, and I have learned so much because of the plan that we put together. I interacted with person after person after person in the department and learned what they do and what they're about, and I have grown so tremendously. And I feel like that, one of the things I said to her when I first sat down, I want to make a difference this year. I want what I do to have some sort of an effect on teachers in classrooms. And some of the blogs that we did during the year, especially the ones on like math or science or the new standards, got thousands of hits. And so I think that maybe I was able to make some difference. This last one that I did, though, I'll be honest, was the most difficult one that I did. It's on the social studies standards, and the reason it is, I went in not knowing anything. I was clueless, and so it's been a long time since I'd had social studies. I'm not going to tell you how many years, but it's been a long time. So it's much different now than what it used to be, and I have to thank Maggie Herrick. She was awesome, and she was patient, and she took me through all of it. But the things that I got out of it, you can read it. It's on the agenda, but it's just like all the different standards that I've talked to you about the last few months. Social studies was implemented this past year, and the same as all of them, the key thing is to develop those critical thinking skills, develop those skills that make kids think. And that's what these frameworks are about, to develop those inquiry skills, historical thinking skills, and you can look at, there's some major changes. There's some great resources, some awesome people that are coming in this summer to do some PD with teachers. I'll let you go through and read it, but I was very impressed when I left, because I'm a little bit prejudiced toward math and science, but these social studies people, they know what they're doing, and so I was very, very pleased when I got through. And I can't stop without thanking Stacy and all of your staff for helping me this year. And I really appreciate it. Y'all were awesome. And while I'm looking that way, there's Megan. Megan Abels is the one that will be sitting up here in this chair. So she's here this morning trying to see what else going on. And she won't get to be here next month because she'll be at Space Camp next month and having a great adventure, but she'll be with us after that, and I know she's going to be a great great addition to the board and bring her some awesome knowledge. I have a gift for you this morning. This kind of sums up the Teacher of the Year this year. It's got the different regional winners and has about Megan and some of the events that I've done this year. So that's just kind of a keepsake for you. So you can take that. And that came from Kim's department. They did a fantastic job with that. She had a student intern this year, and that they went over the top. It was wonderful, and I think I heard that Megan may take that over next year. So I'm looking for another great production with that for next year. I can also stop without thanking Gail and Kevin, because they have helped me. I have been a major contributor to their retirement fund this year, but they have helped me tremendously with all the videos that we've done. And one of the things that we got the privilege of doing last week is we went to CrossFit. And we got to go to the other Miss Newton's facility in CrossFit and meet some of her students and parents and interview them. And we're in the process of getting a video together for that. But one of the things that Forward talks about and the things that we're trying to do with Little Rock and different ones is make a difference in students' lives no matter what their background. And they have managed somehow or another to pull the community together to support students as they go through from I'm assuming birth all the way up. Those students had tremendous support from parents, community, businesses, church, school. They talked about the Teach for America teachers that took them to McDonald's and had study sessions with them. I mean, it just went on and on and on. Those students that had the support of the community and how everybody worked together as a unit to make a difference in those students' lives. I came away so very impressed, and I can't wait for y'all to see some of that work that we were able to do last week. And finally, I also have my last video, profiles video. This one is a mentor teacher and a novice teacher. You know, one of the things that my platform was about this year also was teacher recruitment and retention. And without that mentoring that first year can be a nightmare. And when you've got a teacher that's a veteran teacher that holds that novice teacher's hand, is there to, let them cry on their shoulder or give them advice or say, why don't you try this instead? Just that help just makes that first year much easier, and then they're more likely to stay when they've got that support. And this teacher that is from Sheridan Junior High, she's a science teacher, but she's not only giving support to that first year, but she's continuing that support on into the second year and on. She's just an outstanding mentor, and we were very privileged to get and go visit and do a little bit of an interview. So Ms. Gail's going to show that to you now. Mentoring plays a key role in attracting and retaining highly qualified and motivated teachers for Arkansas students. At Sheridan Junior High School, veteran teacher Candace Wilson serves as a mentor to first-year teacher Tasha Penn. Both educators are strong advocates for teachers working and learning together.
I have someone who's looking at me and who's watching me, someone who's depending on me. I have to second step, to think, what I'm about to say. How is that going to affect the student, but also what effect is that going to have on the novice teacher? If I do something, incorrect, or if I make a wrong move, if she sees that, she could carry that back to her classroom. So I have to be very careful about the things that I say or the suggestions that I make. It's helpful to have someone to go to, who can support you. If nothing else, just encourage you that you'll make it. Today's not the end of the world. You'll make it through today.
Over the summer, we had to go to PDs together. We had curriculum planning days together. So we actually got to meet each other prior to the opening of the first school day. Mentoring is very important for a first-year teacher. It's kind of like a walking resource, and it's a walking resource within the building that I'm working at. So anytime I have a question or anytime I feel not confident in what I'm doing, I can just always go ask the question or get help or about like technology or the grading system or anything that I had problems with. She was just a few doors down the hall.
Co-teaching with my novice teacher for this year has helped to where we can actually work on strategies, work through new ideas, work through struggles that she's having in her classroom. We can work through that in here and role play that and figure out that solution, and then she can carry that back to her classroom.
When I come in here, I can see, okay, she started with this opener because it leads into the lesson, or kind of like proximity, she walks that student. So it's you can talk about it all day and discuss it, but until it's modeled, that's how I really learn it. The growth that I've seen in myself since the mentoring process, a lot of growth. Since day one, I'm confident. My classroom management, it was one of my PGP goals. However, I feel like I've blossomed. I no longer have to go in and say, do your do now, get quiet. It's an expectation that they know to do when they enter my room. So I would want to be a mentor to a novice teacher in a few years, because I think we learn from each other. So in 5 years, there's gonna be different methods that they're gonna be fresh on that I would love to know. And so I just think you learn and grow from each other.
So if I can help these younger teachers overcome these things that are so frustrating behind the scenes, then when they're in their classrooms, they enjoy their jobs. She wants to be a successful teacher. She has that desire. And so just to see her happy and excited about her profession and what she does with our students, that says to me, continue doing what you're doing.
One thing I forgot to mention about that, in this mentoring program at Sheridan, they do something above and beyond that I was so impressed with. They have one period a day that both the mentor and the novice teacher in the classroom together, they co-teach that one class, and that is tremendous help to that novice teacher to have that support where she can actually see what's going on. And so I was very impressed with that.
That's great. Thank you for your report. Megan's going to have big shoes to fill. You need to know that. But you'll still be here so you can assist her, and I know you will, Weta. It's a pleasure to work with you. The chair, I have no report, but board members, I've been advised that Ms. Maria may have something, and Dr. Barth, you may have a report. So we'll start with Ms. Wright.
Wonderful, thank you. I just pleased that I have an update finally on our NASB stipend. I apologize to all of our colleagues that offered so much input and helped us meet a deadline so we could hit the ground running with it, and then very unexpectedly our NASB staff person that was in charge of that stipend unexpectedly left, and then that put us behind for a few weeks. But I'm glad to say I did speak with NASB this week, and several of their staff members, those that will be supporting us with this process. Coincidentally, we're planning to come down anyways at the end of this month for the regional meeting that I think Dr. Barth will be speaking about here. And so we're going to take that opportunity the Thursday prior to that meeting to have sort of a planning session around this stipend. I think the commissioner's report around the vision puts in context the timeliness of this. Again, this is a grant that's about deeper learning, but the hope of the additional funds is to be able to create coherence and lend some additional funds and resources toward coherence around all the different visions that are happening. And so getting to the point, as well as Ms. Saviors talked about forward and other opportunities out there, I think there's a lot of great plans being out there. There's some intersectionality, as we saw yesterday and continue to see, especially with career education and the emergence there. And I think we have an opportunity not just to leverage best practices, but to actually be a leader nationwide in terms of thinking of all of this together and to get some support. And it looks like, in addition to NASB staff, somebody who's visited our state before, Francis Eberly, has agreed to be our consultant to give time to this, to actually do the work of ushering and talking to folks and putting together logistics for meetings, so that hopefully we're not putting any additional work on the plate of Ms. Kaufman, and we have somebody else who's actually going to be running logistics and things like this. So it's not a burden, hopefully it really is an add-on. And more than anything, we see this as an opportunity to inform us, right? We're really trying to make sure that we have the bigger picture in place as we move forward. So you all will get the details for that meeting, which I believe is Thursday, if I recall correctly, the 23rd. Is it the 24th is when the regional meeting starts? So it'd be the afternoon of the 23rd here in Little Rock, and I'm just waiting on the final details. But I hope that some of you, I'm sure Dr. Barth will make an appeal for joining us for that regional meeting. I hope you may consider coming in the night before and joining us as well for this planning session around the stipend.
Yeah, a few things. As Ms. Rice says, just a quick reminder on the NASB regional meeting, and to pick up on Commissioner Key's comments about ESSA. Obviously, we're all in major professional development mode in terms of understanding that legislation and then the rules that are being made emanating out of it. And so a big focus of that meeting on especially during the day on the 25th, Saturday, will be around ESSA, but it will start 4 p.m. on the 24th, but then the bulk of that meeting will be on the 25th, Saturday of June, yeah. And so I can get Ms. Kaufman to send that registration information out one more time. I also, and I've gotten that to Ms. Newton and Dr. Hill as well. There is also a new board member. NASB is sponsoring a conference in July for new state board members around the country. I know that Ms. Dean went last year. It's for folks who have come on board in the last 18 months. So if Mr. Williamson or Ms. Chambers have an interest, that is in July. I cannot remember the exact dates, but it's on the NASB site, and I think Ms. Kaufman's gotten that out to Dr. Hill and Ms. Newton as well. So that's what's up on the NASB front. NASB very involved as ESSA is the rulemaking process continues, and so I think we're going to be because states are so central to the new world of ESSA, and so NASB becomes very important in that. Second item, Ms. Reith and I were on a panel for Teach for America's regional training. They've been in Little Rock this week, and they had a panel on equity and inclusion, especially around issues of race and poverty in Arkansas across time, and so we were on that panel someday this week. Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere in there. It's been a long week. And then, of course, the third item relates to forward, and we've got an agenda item coming up. So that'll serve as my report on what's up with forward, and of course, Susan's arrival, the big news there, as Mr. Key mentioned. So that's up.
Okay. Any other board member have a report? Ms. Savers?
And I think we were going to talk about this during this part of the meeting, but if I'm wrong, please let me know. We talked about a letter coming from our board and going to Fort Smith to their school board and their athletic director, encouraging them and supporting them for the courageous stand that they took on the change of their mascot. And I don't know how to proceed here, Mr. Key.
I don't either.
Well, I know as a board, we've asked in the past for a letter to be written in support of the work that Simmons Bank was doing in Pine Bluff. So I think of it as a similar, just a letter of support, if in fact our board is supportive of doing that. So,
Okay, I mean, we'll make it happen if y'all
well,
want to
yeah,
do
I think
that.
we just need to gauge support of the board. If there is a way to do to do that. Should we?
Yeah, I'm looking for you, Kendra.
Okay, so it's a little bit tricky with the Freedom of Information Act. One way to do it is to direct Commissioner Key to draft that letter on your behalf. That's relatively easy, and what we could do is send out a draft to you all. I'm trying to think about the responses via email. It may be that two things. We could either send out a draft to you all and you could respond with your revisions individually, or we could send out a draft and have a short conference call meeting that we'd have to notify everyone on. Or you can just direct Commissioner Key to do it and he can take care of it and we don't have to worry about the Freedom of Information Act in that vein.
Great idea.
That's a plan. That's a plan.
I have obviously am in support of that, but I know we get lots of requests when big issues come up, and I guess I've always been thinking in terms of, local decisions, local politics, local boards. Maybe we know or don't know all of the details, and so I don't know if that would,
I mean, I think that's one way to look at it.
yeah,
Sure.
set a precedent for, because
And maybe we don't want to do it.
I don't know. I mean, obviously I agree. I just don't know if it would be a good precedent to set, because we're asked to do a lot of different kind of things, or people sort of push us to do a lot of different things. And, I don't know. I hadn't thought about it, so, I have to noodle on it a while.
One of the things I thought, in observing the process, and this may or may not take care of it, and leave it to Commissioner Key's, discretion to do that, but just acknowledging from this chair what I saw as a community that came together and looked at this issue as it related to how impactful it was and the image, and decided as a community to do some things. And so what impressed me about the whole situation, and this is just my editorial, is the fact that they looked at the impact and looked at the ramifications and looked at all those things that impact their school and their community, and decided as a community to do something that certainly got the attention of the state.
Like to commend them for the process they went through, as opposed to taking.
I'm not advocating either one. I just thought I'd say that because that's the way I feel about it.
Right.
I could see it setting a precedent to say, and depending upon the commissioner, I trust the commissioner to do that and to be unbiased with it. But we always have to worry about the next commissioner, and so. Vicki and I are leaving. Dr. Barr.
I do think this was, distinctive act of courage in a really challenging situation, and indeed it was local control at work, as I think you're suggesting, and we should really celebrate it when a local community does take that kind of responsibility and do right in a way that I think makes so many of its citizens and so many of its students feel more welcome at that institution. I think that's an important thing. So I do think there is something distinctive here, and then there is also kind of the side point, which is the decades of service of the athletic director, which of course we recognized a teacher yesterday for 60 years of service. How long had he been there?
Well, he was there when I was in high school, so go figure.
10, 12 years. So anyway,
Decades.
so I think there are two different issues that ended up being intersecting because of his role in standing up.
And their superintendent is ending 50 years too, so, anyway, I don't know. You obviously, having grown up there, would have more intimate knowledge about all of that than I.
But I think I come from this, though, even more along the lines of what Toyce is describing and then what Jay so eloquently said. This is about a community taking a stand and doing the right thing. And particularly as it applies to their students and the way their students portray themselves across the state when they, you know, whether it's Quiz Bowl or, you know, a football game. That's how they represent themselves, and I'm just extremely proud of what they've done and how hard it's been. I mean, it's been tremendously hard over a long period of time. This is not just a conversation that started this year. It's been going on for years.
And that's stuff that, you know, that I don't. So.
Yeah.
I don't mean to, as someone said yesterday, be the wet blanket. But there are districts, other districts in the state with the same mascot. There are districts in the state that have Indian, Native American related mascots. And regardless of what anyone thinks about the mascot names that are around, I mean, I'm a Go Devil, okay? We had a family that left the district because the district would not change the name from Devil, okay? If you were to do this, it would just need to be cautious because, yeah, I think where you're trying to celebrate the positive, could it have a ripple effect on other communities that folks would say, well, look what the state board did for Fort Smith Southside and for that district, and use that somehow in a way that would not be helpful in other communities. So that's,
what if we individually then just wrote a note as Vicki Savers Knight, Vicki Savers State Board of Education?
I think that would be a very appropriate action for the board members to take individually, rather than as a collective board under ADE letterhead.
Dr. Bart?
Would it be appropriate for the department to send letters of appreciation to the superintendent and the athletic director for their long service, and show awareness of the challenges that they have kind of faced in the last couple of years? Is that appropriate?
I think in a very broad way, I believe that's appropriate, as would be for any long-serving school administrator that has had a number of myriad issues, that community issues and others that they've faced. So that's certainly not outside the I think the scale of being appropriate.
Well, as a board member, Superintendent Gooden, when he comes to this board, he was kind of a force when he came, and so
He's been a force for a long time.
right, and so I think there is importance there, recognizing that.
And you would like to do that from the board?
That'd be my preference.
Okay.
But it may raise. I mean, that one feels like a simple.
Oh, well,
service.
that is an option too, Ms. Zook, to actually invite them to come here and be celebrated, if you wanted to do that.
Well, and what I do like with that idea is that if individually some of us wanted to make a comment at that time, then we could do so.
Yes. Okay, we will contact them and invite them to a board meeting.
Thank you.
And Ms. Savers, you could
Come back and visit us.
come back.
With your cheerleader outfit?
I hope so.
I'm not going to press that.
Doing a hurry.
Any other reports by any reports or requests by other board members? Okay, if not, then we'll move to the report 4, 2014-15 grade inflation report. Elbert Harvey.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Key, members of the board, you actually have, I wouldn't even call it the B team, I'm probably down even lower. Dr. Arola and Louis Farron are both at a meeting, and they could much more go in depth on the data inside this report than I can, but I'll be willing to take any questions, and if I'm not able to answer them, I will forward them forward to them to have you answers at the next meeting. I do want to bring a couple of things to your attention. In years past, this report has been based upon the end-of-course exam. And as we're moving forward, we are not able to have the end-of-course exam, as you currently know. We have two statutes that deal with this report. One deals with it being on the end of course, and one statute defines it as being off of the ACT. So we went based upon the ACT scores this year. And as you know, not all students take the ACT, so that's going to affect the data in some of the areas that you may be looking at based upon their ACT score and scoring a B or above in the course. But we did compile a report as for the information that we had available to generate a report for.
I'm a simple person, and I have a simple question. What does RV mean?
It's a restricted value. That means there's not enough students that you could place in that category that would not make them identifiable if someone had the potential to look at those records.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Barth?
And related to that, what number do we use there? And I know that's becoming more of a controversy, or maybe not controversy at this point, but in terms of ESSA, the debate over what that magic number is below which we get intrusions into privacy.
For this report, we use 10.
Okay.
Some of the federal reports, it's 25, some up to 30. But
Okay.
for this report, we use 10.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I'm sure others have been reading about that, but ESSA may leave some flexibility there, so it's one of those things that we may have to, we get to deal with exactly how low can you go and still
And I guess
figure that out.
the surprising thing too is some of these large districts, if it's restricted value and 10 is the value, had fewer than 10 that took the ACT.
Based upon the information
Yeah.
that was
Yeah,
sent to us.
that's,
And Dr. Barth, you're right, and Dr. Arola, I know, has already started having conversations about that, and because, you know, we're no longer able to use a tag group, that all subgroups have to be evaluated individually. That disaggregation means those in sizes could get smaller in some districts, and it is going to be tricky. So we've got a lot of work to do on that.
Yeah. But if you make it too high, then you end up with a lot of RVs.
Exactly.
I guess one question I have, and it's one that I had to face years ago as Director of Special Services in deciding the battery of tests that we would give, is we found that a test many times had cultural or racial bias. Has any information or any new study been done on the ACT to see if there is cultural or racial bias within the test?
I am not currently aware. Ms. Allen may have more of that information. Of course, she's not here today,
Yeah.
but I will do some research on that and provide you information.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful, and maybe if we had the information on a reports day, not just sent to us, because even if it has a little bit, if it is the sole thing, and of course we know that the score you make on an ACT is not a predictor of lifetime success. It may show how well you may or may not do the first year of college, or and higher ed requiring a kid to take a remedial course as opposed to allowing them to take whatever course they want to, and then if they do not do well, offering the remedial. But this is very concerning to me, and because I don't want us to be a part of or a party to any kind of evaluation or testing of a single thing that may have cultural or racial bias in it. And I know that's not you making that decision. You're the messenger, I get that. But it's something that I think that, oh, there you are. You may know.
Well, and a little bit on my learning services report, we're going to dig into a little bit more on assessment, and Hope Allen will be here during that time.
Okay.
So we'll address this then.
Okay, thank you. Saved by Ms. Smith.
Definitely. I was afraid Miss Allen may be with Dr. Arola and Mr. Farron.
Okay.
Okay. Ms. Savers,
Mr. Harvey, so what happens next?
That's a very good question. Typically, we would look at those that had a high grade inflation rate, and we would hold a conversation with the district to have them look at their curriculum and see how their curriculum is actually aligning with the end of course assessment. In this case, we'll be having a deeper discussion where we're looking at the overall, how it will be aligning with Aspire, which we know they're working that alignment, but we need to look at how their grading system actually fits into that process.
Well, it's just, I'm particularly concerned about the literacy scores, percentages. It's just so, I hate to think about kids graduating and thinking that they had a certain knowledge base and skill set, and that they really don't. So I'm hopeful that something positive can happen to help these kids.
Yes, ma'am. That's one of the things that Dr. Wild and the school improvement team, we do have discussions with districts, specifically those that are in priority or academic distress status. This report actually has a reflection too for focus schools, so we include that into our discussion as we're doing evaluations with them.
Do you see that makes a difference? I mean, we've gotten these reports for years.
I could not really say to that at this point, to be honest. I do know that it brings it to their attention, that there is an issue. We do have some superintendents and principals that are very concerned about that percentage, so they actually go back in and work with the teachers. We want to approach it in a very positive manner. We would not want a situation where, based upon a test score, a student's grade overall is lowered, because as you know, when you're looking at an assessment, you're looking at a one-shot picture of that student on that particular day, and where the grade may reflect their overall performance academically for the year versus what one assessment could bring forward. So there are several factors that go into play when we start talking with districts around this assessment area. I mean, I can just say personally from my own daughter's standpoint, she did very well academically, but struggled when it come to testing because she has test anxiety. So our school always was dinged for her for grade inflation, to be honest.
But I think when you're looking at these really big percentages, then you've got a trend.
Yes, ma'am, and that's where we bring it to their attention and say, you know, we need to have a little deeper discussion and let them dive into their data a little bit more deeper, and then we assist them in that process.
Thanks.
If I could ask a question.
Ms. Chambers?
So one of my questions was, have we been doing this for a while? And it sounds like we have. We've had these reports for years. One data point that would be useful, I'm assuming since they took the ACT, some significant percentage of these students went on to college. Do we ever, or as a data point, are we able to go on and, through survey or otherwise, figure out what happened to them? How did they do? Because that would be some indication of what they took away, for literacy or otherwise, from school, as we saw their success or lack of success as they went on into secondary.
I know that has been a topic of discussion, and coordinating our information with higher ed and then how we can actually track those students. I know we've had some discussion about how do students, what is their success rate after exiting high school, and that could also be reflected on remediation rate.
Is that something we're hoping to do or wanting to do?
That's some of the discussions that we've had with inside the school improvement to help us with moving districts forward. And I know that, I believe, Dr. Saunders.
While he's coming, Ms. Chambers, I just would remind you that Goal 4 in our strategic initiative is measuring the success of students 1 year after graduation. So then whether that's college, whether that's in gainful employment or military career, I mean, there are several pieces of that we are looking at capturing and using as a metric for gauging success of the school systems.
Part of the issue has been, like DHS wanting to work with K-12 on the pre-K, is you don't really have, we have to figure out a way, because at this point we don't really have permission to share identifiable data from DHS to K-12 or identifiable data from K-12 to higher ed. So you could do it in clumps, you know, and percentages, but to actually track an individual then, because they have now turned 18, their parents can no longer give us permission to have that information, and so they'd have to get the student, which may not be an issue at all, but it's not just simply a matter of, you know, two guys getting together and saying, hey, let's do this, so.
Yes, I just want to reiterate what both of the comments were and what Commissioner Key was emphasizing about with the strategic plan, and as we're identifying what those metrics are and tracking students for their performance after graduation and what those look like, and then go for program evaluations and once we have those definitions established.
Any further questions? Dr. Barr?
This is actually a question for Ms. Newton. In terms of kind of the teaching experience, I mean, how much consciousness around grade inflation is there kind of day to day?
I don't know that's something that at a teacher level that I was conscious of. I was conscious of making sure my students were, you know, I went through whatever standards I had, make sure my students were equipped through those standards, and making sure they knew how to think. And, you know, there was also at the upper levels some ACT prep in there, that sort of thing. But as far as considering grade versus ACT score, you know, I don't know that ever entered my mind.
Yeah. Is there much conversation about it across teachers?
Not across teachers, but, you know, from the administration level down, you know, we have conversations sometimes at the, you know, early in the year, making sure that, you know, you're teaching to a high level, okay? And if teachers teach to a high level, then grade inflation kind of takes care of itself. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
No, I was just curious in terms of how conscious. I mean, we've obviously got tons of schools where it is quantitatively a problem.
And you know, and I really believe if we give it time, the difference in the standards is going to help, because you know, if I think of math standards, literacy standards, science standards, and then these social studies standards that even went into it, every one of them are asking kids to think critically, you know, and you know, that's not something that's going to happen overnight. You know, it's going to have to build from kindergarten on up, and it's going to take time to develop those critical thinkings and problem-solving skills and all of those things that, you know, ACT asks kids to do, and it's going to take time for students and teachers to develop those skills, students to develop them skills within themselves, and then teachers to develop those skills within their classroom of how do I change my teaching habits to get to that level. So, you know, I think the standards are going to play a big role in that. If, you know, and again, you know, one of the things that, if I go back to science from last month, one of the things when I talked to the specialist, she said, it's going to take teachers about 3 years to learn to teach in the way the standards intend, you know, and so a process of transformation, I think that Commissioner talked about, this is part of it, you know, reaching to those higher levels of thinking and making our kids do things differently and teachers do things differently, you know, and so it's going to be a process, and it's going to take time. So.
Dr. Barth, if I may too point out, and Hope, I saw Hope come in, but maybe she could get in more detail of this. Remember the conversation last summer as we were looking at the transition from PARCC to ACT Aspire, and we were looking at ACT Aspire as a more comprehensive assessment system. And, you know, there's work being done on predictive models as we go through the ACT Aspire, but certainly at the 9th and 10th grade levels where those tests look more like the ACT. And the point being, and as we've had interaction with teachers who said, well, how do we get them ready for ACT Aspire? We say, teach the standards, teach the standards, teach the standards. But the trajectory piece that is going to come with every student's ACT Aspire feedback is going to be informative to teachers. And I think because right now grade inflation is looked at only at the high school level. But what we know is that if we don't do what we need to do in the early grades, then we're not getting them ready so grade inflation is going to be a problem. But that's a singular piece of what should be a comprehensive assessment system, and how do we respond to that when we get information that can inform and instruct our, as Dr. Saunders talking about, programmatic decisions. So that's why we really feel strongly that, and that's again part of our strategic initiative, is that comprehensive assessment system, and using that so that we stop looking at all these standalone things, standalone measures, and then we ding a school because grade inflation is too high, which has no connection to anything else they're doing. Okay, so it's going to take some time to get there, but we see the building blocks in place that will get us there. In the meantime, the grade inflation statute is still on the books, and so we still look at it as that singular piece, knowing that in time we're going to hopefully, it's going to be more of a continuum of assessments, and we don't get to the end and say, you got a 4.0, but you made an 18 on your ACT. We envision a future where those conversations they won't be as important, because we've got so much more on the front end for these kids.
Anything else for Mr. Harvey? Thank you. Do we need a break, or we move forward? Move forward, I guess. Move forward to forward. Report 5, Susan Harriman, the Forward, our Arkansas report. Well, that's not Susan. Dr. Rainey.
Thank you very much. Surprise. I'm here today as one of the co-chairs of the Forward Implementation Committee. The other co-chair is a young man that you all know, Jared Henderson, and he's out of the city today. I am excited about this opportunity. We have great challenges in education, and I believe that together, if we get all the forces moving in the same direction, we can be successful. I am also excited about being here today to present the executive director of the Forward Initiative, my friend, Susan Harriman, who is going to go through an update for you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, David. Good morning, Madam Chair, Senator Key, members of the board, and ADE friends. I'm honored to be here today before you. Today I'm here to talk about strengthening our partnership between the Department of Education and the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation and the Walton Family Foundation. It's especially appropriate to do this today as Vicki Savers and Toyce Newton take a bow and move on to their new roles. I want to talk about our update and our progress in 3 different categories. And if you could switch to the next slide. The first category to discuss is our community engagement. We are in the process and in the weeks ahead developing a way to roll out the Forward Communities Initiative. We have been working in 6 strategic communities, doing some listening tour stops and some grassroots work. These communities represent geographic regions across the state. We have gotten feedback from the implementation working group members and key stakeholders on which communities to work in. We have been hosting tours in Crossett, Mariana, Pea Ridge, and Batesville. Dollarway and El Dorado are forthcoming. We are also in discussions with Pine Bluff, and other districts are coming forward and expressing an interest. So we will report back to you in a few months on how we envision the community's initiative to roll out. We are looking at different stages or different scenarios for different types of communities. Because there is so much interest, we believe that there will be a pilot group of 5 or 6 communities that we do a deep dive into, that we ask those communities to do a self-assessment. There will be some key data indicators that we'll ask all communities to look at. There'll be things like unemployment rate, average income, education attainment level in a community, but also some key education indicators. We'll be creating a dashboard that we hope will be intuitive enough to help drive change and to help communities ask themselves the right questions about how to move forward. We will be asking those communities to develop an action plan, and that plan, of course, will have the aspirations of reaching one or more of the 7 forward goals. We would envision also under each of those goals having a toolkit that is a menu of programs that have proven to be successful, that are research-based, scalable, and affordable. And we will be encouraging communities to use those particular tools. I wanted to move on now to communication, and we have 2 things to talk about under communication. The first is our new website. It's going to be launching soon. We are. Can somebody click on that for us? Thank you. The new website features more user-friendly tools. It's easier to navigate. It's more visually engaging. It more clearly outlines the forward recommendations, and we believe there's more relevant information on it. Moving forward, I find myself saying forward an awful lot these days and noticing when other people do too. But what we hope to do on this website is create a platform of engagement. And as a part of that platform, we will host a data center, and that data center would show progress on the 7 key goals. We're envisioning some sort of a snapshot dashboard for each community, and something maybe like, Eric, your student GPS system or the parent portal, where districts and communities have access to relevant real-time data. We will also on this website have increased resources. We'll be able to share community accomplishments. We'll be highlighting communities and their challenges. And so we are in discussions with several different groups right now on how to make this website a community engagement tool. Now I'd like to show you a new video. It's only about 2 minutes long. If we could click on that. This is going to be on our new website as well.
Imagine Arkansas at the forefront of public education, where every Arkansas student graduates prepared for success in college and the workplace. This isn't a dream for Arkansas, it's a vision, our vision. Forward Arkansas is a partnership of local education, business, government, and civil society leaders committed to improving public education in the state. But Arkansas can do more than improve. Arkansas can lead. So Forward set a strategic goal, becoming a leading state in education by improving student achievement at a historically ambitious yet achievable rate and closing the achievement gap within a generation. To get there, Forward engaged nearly 8,500 Arkansans through town hall meetings, focus groups, and surveys. We asked for your vision of public education in Arkansas, and we listened. We also conducted an in-depth analysis of Arkansas's educational system, including school attendance and performance, test scores, participation rates, graduation rates, college readiness, and more. It was a lot of data, a lot of discussion, a lot of insight. And Forward used it all to develop recommendations to meet the overarching goal and dramatically improve student achievement in Arkansas. But it's not just for students. We all feel the effects of strong public education. Proven benefits include more jobs, higher incomes, better health, rising home values, increased revenue, lower crime, and more community involvement. And if we don't invest in education, we all feel those effects too. Together, we can change the future of Arkansas education. We can do this, and we will, with your help. Share your vision for improving Arkansas education. Commit to being part of the solution, and learn more about the state of education in Arkansas at forwardarkansas.org.
Thank you. All right, so the next bucket of information is our policies and systems. The process is already underway to align our strategic goals. We hosted a legislative breakfast on April 21st. There were a dozen or so legislators there. Richard Abernathy, Jay Barth, John Riggs, and Brenda Robertson helped host that meeting for us. We're in the process of leveraging the agendas of all the partners in the Forward community. We're looking at overlap and gaps. We're going to be working with the Department of Education and on doing a crosswalk with the Department of Education's new strategic plan, aligning that with the ESSA legislation, and then aligning that with the Forward goals. And Denise Oriola is helping us with that. We should have that in a month or so. We are going to be polling our members and looking at setting legislative priorities internally, and then also looking at some external stakeholder engagement. The goal for us is to develop 4 to 6 concrete ideas for legislation, but then to also work with our partner organizations and help them when they're carrying a piece of legislation to lock arms with them where our priorities line up. So the final item on the agenda that I have today is an effort to demonstrate our true commitment to this work and our seriousness about our work together. And that is we're seeking an approval of a memorandum of understanding between the key partners in Forward. What we're asking for in this memorandum is really an equivalent in-kind match of the foundation's commitment, a 3-year commitment of in-kind support commensurate with the foundation gifts, leveraging resources, access to data and data analytic tools within the department, in compliance with FERPA, of course, a high-functioning team at the department to work with, and correlating the rules and regs within the agency's purview with Forward strategic goals. So at this time, I'd like to answer any questions that you might have about the presentation or about the MOU in particular.
Okay. Start, Ms. Chambers, you got any questions? Okay. Mr. Black? Mr. Williamson?
Not yet.
Okay. Ms. Savers?
Well, yes. I don't have a question, but this is so exciting. You all may or may not know, but Susan is the queen of implementation and execution. No, I'm not kidding. And this is just such great news that she will be leading the way. So far, everything just looks great. I loved your video. I mean, I think it sends the right message. And the fact that already today we've had in our different conversations, Mr. Key has mentioned Forward, Mireya mentioned it. You know, it's becoming just organically part of all of our work. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, congratulations as well, Susan. We look forward to working with you. And so just to be clear, the memorandum of understanding, the draft doesn't exist as of yet, or it's...
Yes, I have it right here.
Oh, okay, wonderful. So for us will we have an opportunity to see it, or I didn't see it in our board packets?
Oh, I thought it was sent around.
It is? Okay. Oh, I
It's
apologize.
not in the
I
packet.
got
Ms.
you.
Kaufman sent a
It
separate
is.
email.
My apologies.
Okay,
I oversaw
great.
that. I'll open that. Thank you.
And we may take 10 or 15 minutes for her to review, or anyone else to go over it, so that we can progress and whatever, I don't know what your recommendation is, but at least we'll have had an opportunity for everyone to review it.
That's
You want a few
fine.
minutes to do that?
If there's other questions, I might be able
Okay,
to look.
okay, fine.
If
I'm
if
gonna-
you'd like, Maria, I can go through the main responsibilities of each group and just
That-
kind of hit
that-
the
that might
high
be a good
points,
idea,
so
yeah.
that everybody in the
Right.
room can hear. So as a part of the MOU, the foundations, the Rockefeller and Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation and the Walton Family Foundation are committed to providing 3 years of financial support for the operations of Forward, including staffing, strategic communications, the Forward Community Initiative, policy advocacy, and research and evaluation. The foundations are also committed to providing staff guidance, meeting space, and access to other foundation support for operations and the execution of deliverables. They're also committed to collaborate with key staff at the Department of Education, whose areas of responsibility overlap with Forward's goals, and provide physical and administrative oversight, including prioritizing and executing the grants and funding to be awarded in support of Forward goals. The Forward Arkansas, which would be myself and any staff that we bring on board, it commits to overseeing the administration and the core operations of Forward, all programmatic functions of Forward, including strategic communications, the Forward Communities Initiative, policy and advocacy, and research and evaluation, overseeing the development and implementation of an annual plan, managing being the managing liaison between all the organizations, and reporting quarterly to the State Board of Education. We're asking the board and the Department of Education to commit to designating a high-functioning team responsible for day-to-day support and implementation of Forward goals. We're asking for the alignment and allocation of in-kind support for Forward goals that's commensurate with the foundations, providing data tools and analytics in compliance with FERPA, to monitor evaluation and progress, correlate rules and regs in connection with the goals, and provide leadership and advocacy for Forward in routine communications within the department and with key stakeholders at various conferences and meetings and events.
I'm going to ask Commissioner to respond if at this point, if you have any questions or comments about the MOU.
No, we're very comfortable with the commitment. It reflects the commitment that we have already made, and the fact that they're asking for in-kind commitments means there's no extra money. But it does, seriously though, there is a commitment of the agency to work with the Walton Family Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation in this initiative has been reflected. Ms. Kaufman is, deeply involved. When we are out presenting, talking about it, we promote Forward as a critical partner in our efforts. Dr. Arola, the work that she's going to do with the alignment of ESSA and Forward and the A2E strategic vision, all those pieces fit so well into this that we certainly have no objection to you all adopting this MOU.
Ms. Zook, you have any questions?
You may want to hold me to last because I've got a lot of questions. Sorry.
What's new?
I know, this is not new.
Well, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, since Forward was an initiative, and now they are one of 5 equal parts, help me understand how that came to be.
The
original memorandum was between the 2 foundations and the state board, and Forward was an initiative. So it was a way of those 3 working together to get things done.
Right. There are 2 new signatures we're asking for on this document, and that is Forward and the Department of Education. And basically, we're the accountable to getting the work done and implemented, and that's why that's been added.
Okay, are you like a 501c3? Are you, have y'all established yourself
That's a good
as
question.
an entity?
We are in the process of putting together the paperwork to incorporate and become a 501c3.
So until that happens, would this not be premature?
We believe it just would transition into the new organization.
You know, I guess
that's a good question.
Yeah, where I'm coming from, I'm not much into layers and bureaucracy and everybody having to talk and collaborate, as opposed to you all lead the initiative that we had the MOU. So I'm not clear and therefore not comfortable at this point. And also, on the Forward communities, how do you have a certain key people in those communities that you target to help you all with the work to become a Forward community?
What we're looking at now is we're still gathering feedback on what those communities might look like. What we envision is our stakeholders all have constituents that are different, and that in those groups, for instance, the Rural Community Alliance, there would be communities within that organization that would like to be Forward communities. But there also might be superintendents through AAEA that would like to be Forward communities. So what we want to do is empower our stakeholders to create a process for having Forward communities in their own purview, so to speak.
Okay, and also on the vision, I've sort of pounded on this and you're new, so now I'll start pounding you. I really believe the wording should be college and or career, because if you say college and workplace, that says college and when you work. And I think that there will be students who maybe go to career, and one of the things that we're working on is showing how if you do an apprenticeship and you go to career, then you can maybe pay for your college without having a lot of student debt. And so, I've said it to everybody, and so far nothing's changed, but so I'm going to say it one more time. I really think and or as opposed to college and workplace is a more appropriate way to word that.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay, I knew you would. You know I don't shoot messengers. Right. Okay, under the C, the board and department commit.
Yes.
It says align and allocate in-kind support from Forward, so that apparently the commissioner says that he feels comfortable that will not need added people. You know, I see they're doing ESSA, and I see they're doing this other initiative, and they're moving forward. And now, so hopefully y'all will understand that they are the leaders in this as opposed to, you know, y'all coming in with extra work for them.
Sure. What we envision is just reallocating or aligning existing work that logically matches the goals of ESSA and Forward and the new ADE strategic plan, and that we coordinate our work more thoughtfully and maybe get things done and get things done maybe more efficiently.
Okay, and the 4 under C, correlate rules and regulations that connect with forward goals. Now, as a board can't do anything about rules and regulations that doesn't come from the legislature.
Right.
So
right.
I don't feel comfortable with that.
Let me explain what we're thinking about it. So what we want to do is help however possible make the services and resources that the department has easier and for school districts to get. So what we would like to do is where the rules and regs might be cumbersome or bulky or maybe outdated, that we could look at that instead of a legislative remedy. And I know the department's been working extensively in this area, but we would like to see, for example, in the area of leadership and leadership training, the rules and regs in that particular category. And if there is something we can do to help streamline that process, or maybe legislation is not needed.
And I know that you mentioned the 4 to 6 legislative initiatives. It seems at this point, which has been helpful, that the committee meets and then you all report to us, but we're not giving a lot of input or having an opportunity to give a lot of input from us to the committee.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel comfortable as an individual on a board, which I'm just one, of agreeing to, in the name of the board I sit on, making the legislature feel like that this is State Board of Education pushing this as well as the others, because we may or may not agree with the legislation that you all come up with. So
Well,
I don't know, I didn't articulate that very well,
No, I hope that we'd be able to reassure you and have a process where you feel very informed and comfortable. I know we'll be working with Johnny and his team to make certain that the goals that Forward is pushing forward are goals that we can all feel very strongly about.
My understanding of my appointment of requesting Dr. Barth to be a part of that committee was to, Ms. Zook, facilitate that conversation between the board, this board, and the Forward committee, so that there wouldn't be just an absence of communication or and a back and forth. And I can't, as far, and I'll be a public citizen at that point, but I can't see that we would have diverse interest, or that either would succeed in moving legislation forward, as difficult as that is, without being on the same page. I just can't imagine that could happen, or that it would come to a point where we could philosophically be so at odds with best practices and with interventions as it relates to academically distressed schools and how to impact them, or teacher pipelines, or so forth and so on. So that's I'm thinking that probably it's, although we should be cautious and not give anyone a blank check as far as the board is concerned, by the same token, I do see that we're moving in the same direction, and it seems that we're using the same vehicle to get to that place. So I've seen a progression even before. And Dr. Barth, who was the representative before you?
Kim.
Okay.
Kim Davis.
Okay, Kim Davis was a representative before then. But I've seen a well thought out, I think, and a logical plan to have this board be involved in the planning, at least on a quarterly basis, based on you guys coming back to us at every step of the way, giving reports of how different milestones have been reached and moving forward. So I felt informed up until this point, and I think that we're moving in the direction of having this happen to benefit schools in the state. So
Could we have a work session on this topic in a couple of months? Would that
Well, I
help?
would have to look at the work session schedule keeper back there.
September. By then, we should have narrowed down with the other constituents their priorities and have a really good feel for what we'd like to propose, and then be able to have a work session with you.
Okay, and then the final question I had is number 2, where it says if one or more participants elect to jointly work together with another participant on a particular project that's outside the scope of this MOU, and then such participant or contact party shall deliver a mutually acceptable collaboration agreement which shall set forth the scope terms. I don't feel comfortable in an MOU where a couple or 3 of the participants could make a decision that all 5 now of the participants didn't work in collaboration with to reach agreement among all the parties. And that's all my questions.
I think that this one speaks to if one of the partners wanted to do some other work together, it would be all right.
It just wouldn't say, it wouldn't be in the name of Forward.
Right.
I don't understand the need for the expansion to the 5, but that's just me. And the only way I can
That was the
communicate that
wish.
with my board members is in a public meeting.
That was the wish of one of my superiors right now to include that, and I think the intent of that was to make me accountable.
Anyway, that's all the questions I have, and you and I have a good relationship, and you know I'm not shooting the messenger.
No, I know.
Dr. Varn?
Yeah, thanks, Susan. Just a couple of things, and probably mainly in response to Ms. Zook. I think on the way I read the rules and regulations provision here, you know, I think when we now, 14 months ago or so, signed on to the original agreement. I can't remember exactly when that was.
Right.
About then.
Statement of intentions.
Right. You know, I think we're saying, because the 50 or 60 specifics there. You know, I think we were signing on to that general direction. The way I read this rules and regs provision is that those areas where the state board does have a good deal of room to maneuver. We know, for instance, on academic distress, right? We have a lot of room to maneuver that this board should generally be guided by the vision of Forward as it considers revisions to that. Now, I don't think it locks in any board member to a specific vote, because there may be slight disagreements about exactly what the right way to do that is. So that's, but I think it's basically saying we are going to be, generally, rowing in the same direction that we've agreed to. So I don't feel uncomfortable with that at all. Ms. Clay early on developed a spreadsheet of, which are of those items that are in the Forward initiative have to have legislation to be changed, down to those things that could be done by the commissioner without any real input. And along that continuum are things that could be changed by this board through the rulemaking process, which we all know is a multi-stage process and where we are only one party in that. So I feel comfortable with that as basically being one more step towards us saying, yeah, we're really committed to this. I do think a work session is really important so that, especially with new membership, so that everybody has their heads around what Forward looks like and what role we might play. While there might be disagreements about specifics, that in general we would have that role. The second thing I want to respond on your concerns about the institutionalization of Forward as an entity in and of itself. I just think that's very important because, both of these foundations have a lot of work to do themselves. They have their own work and goals. And then all the members of the IWG, of the implementation working group, they all have day jobs. They all have their lives with their own organizations or in their own work. And so I just think it is the only way this thing is really going to keep moving is that if there is some kind of institutionalization of Forward as an entity with its own identity that is certainly supported by all of these two foundations and the team here at ADE, but the only way it's going to really keep moving is if there's some growing institutionalization. So I am comfortable with that. I think I agree that it is a step removed from the original agreement, but I think it is the only way in which we are really going to get true, ongoing, sustained movement on this initiative.
Yeah, I just think it to a degree lessens the impact of our request, because I have only made 2 requests and neither of them have been. So sometimes I feel like if the committee doesn't come up with it, that the board gets the report, but the board doesn't, there's not much two-way, not much transparency going back and forth. But I'm not, we feel differently about that. And you're the liaison, so you are more closely like with the spreadsheet, which I haven't seen. So.
And I did want to mention that in the last several months, the foundations have been looking at what other states are doing and the different approaches that have been made. And the one, well, there's several, but the Colorado Education Initiative is one organization that they would like us to replicate, and also the Rodell Foundation in Massachusetts. And they have formed a 501c3 to have some separateness also from their foundation's work.
Ms. Dean? Ms. Newton?
I do have a question, but I think my question is because I missed out on some of the initial training that the board members got. I saw in there that you're going to take, I think you said pilot some schools, or just not schools, but communities next year, about 5. But it said in there that you were going to commit for 3 years, okay? So if those communities come on board and they start making progress, because they didn't get where they are now in 3 years, so it's going to take more than 3 years for them to come out. What's going to happen in that 4th year?
Well, we hope that Forward will grow and become stronger and become a policy think tank for the state and be a resource for schools. So we're making a 3-year commitment, but we believe that the project is going to go and build on itself and become like the Colorado Education Initiative.
So you foresee communities still being supported after that 3rd year?
What I would envision is some sort of seed money or some work done where there's a commitment between the community and the foundations to help, but then it'd be maybe a 4 or 5 year process for a full transformation to take place.
Ms. Chambers?
While MOUs always tend to have a tendency to make people uncomfortable, I think they serve a purpose because they put a finer point on what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it. So I think it's good timing. It's a good conversation. But it reminds me back to something that the commissioner said earlier. There are so many good things going on right now, but they feel discrete. And even as big as Forward is, it feels somewhat discrete, at least to me, relative to the strategy. And so as we talk about a work session, I don't want to, Forward is big enough unto itself, but at some point, Deborah, if we could think about how do we talk about the strategy, the Department of Education strategy relative to Forward? And as we start to break down who's doing what in sequence. We have so many things going at the same time. Even the way we go about, we were talking about inflation of grades. We need to think about what are the right things to measure or to score or to see how we're doing. But how we go about this work and the sequence so that we aren't looking at a score while we actually need to go we needed to go into the kindergarten class and start to change the standards, how we're going to teach the standards before the score that we're looking at is really going to be meaningful in terms of what we're trying to accomplish. How do you start to sequence the work and be more intentional? And I don't doubt for a moment our very good collective intentions and that it sounds like they're very largely aligned. But we won't really know until we break the work down more specifically in terms of what we're going to execute to know. And I know this is going to take time, but I think we all collectively want to push ourselves as hard as we can to have a sense of urgency on results as quickly as possible for kids that are in school right now. So I love all the things going on at the same time and just want to make sure that I'm putting my support behind how we sort through it and go about it at the right pace and the right sequence.
I think the crosswalk that Dr. Arola is going to do will